Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Energy Speaks Back, powered by B2B Energy. My name is Paul Webb, and I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm your host. And weekly, I present to you energy experts from around the world. Welcome to episode 122. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. We would like to thank utility people who are creating a better career and future for people in our industry, and Esther Energy, who are our certificate partners. My guest today became a sustainable focused individual from his days in the Scouts to working with the Met Police and to today, where he's the founder of the Solar Shed. So without any further ado, I give you Kevin Holland. Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you today?
Yeah, hello, Paul. Very well, thank you. Very well. It's a bit gloomy outside, so it's not much of a solar day, but yeah, in myself, I'm fine, thank you.
Brilliant. What has happened to the summer? This is the question.
Do you know what? I think we're going to be thankful for this weather that we've had in July. Whilst it's school holidays, we all want to get down the beach and all the rest of it. I think we might be quite thankful for what's heading our way and what's happening in the rest of Europe at the moment.
Yeah,
I mean, where my mum lives down in Murcia, we often pop down there. But in Murcia, they've had 3 weeks of 40 degrees plus. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
too
It
much.
really is.
Too much.
It's happening so quickly. No one expected the ice to melt and the seas to warm as quick as it has this year. I know it's an El Nino year and all the rest of it. There's other factors, but the ice melt going and the warm waters and then this heat wave around the global, all around the north of the equator, isn't it? All the way around the planet. I mean, there's areas further north than us, east and west, that are up to 40 degrees.
Yeah,
We're talking about fires in Canada again.
yeah.
Siberia, the methane coming out of Siberia, the methane bomb. It's going to be short-lived in the atmosphere, but for the next 5 or 6 years, while it's in there, good God, it's going to be hot. It's going to be sweaty.
Yeah.
It's going to be sweaty.
And as you say, it's happening so quick, and
It
you
is.
couldn't.
We
You
all knew it
can't
was going to
predict this, can
happen.
you? Yeah.
No, we all knew it was going to happen. We didn't know the speed that this was going to happen, but there's no solace in saying that we were right on this.
No.
It's not
No.
nice. It's
No,
not
I don't want
nice.
to. I'm not looking for pats on the back for this. We're trying to. I don't think we can stop it. I think we can slow it down.
We can, and eventually, I mean, drawdown. Are you aware of the expression of drawdown? What do you know what drawdown is?
No, I'm not.
Drawdown is the point where we start to reverse the amount
Right.
of carbon that we put in. So we've got to aim for drawdown, where we neutrality and then start reversing. And the project drawdown itself, I ask everyone to look at project drawdown over in America, and there's some great projects, even art projects around the world about visualizations and bringing climate change to the people rather than through a sales process or through scary news. You
Yeah.
can actually turn a lot of the education into an art form as well. And Drawdown are doing some great things around the world.
Right. I'm going to go and research that myself. So thank you
Yeah,
for that.
project Drawdown.
Brilliant. So, Kevin, we have met through LinkedIn,
Yeah,
and I've been following some of your stuff. It's really interesting. And you're,
a bit shouty.
yeah, well, you know, I'm the same, but we're trying to get the message out, aren't we?
That's it.
And I think it's
You've got to be
important.
the noise, haven't you? If you want to create the noise, you've got to be the noise, haven't you?
Exactly. So I know about you, and I'm hoping some of my audience know about you. But for the benefit of the audience that don't know, they haven't heard you as yet. Can you give us some your background and maybe tell us about your origin story?
Okay. Well, for me, my environmentalism started years ago when I was a cub or a scout. We were building a rifle range, and we needed wood. We needed wood to build and also wood to sell to raise money to build the rifle range.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to chop trees down. And I learned very early at 11, 12 of age, for every tree you chop down, you plant another two. So it was really, really simple. I just thought that was the rules. That was the law, because you're a kid and you're told something
Yeah,
by a
yeah.
grown up in uniform. So it must be true. So, and then I become a police officer, and that's my trophy wall behind. Where, when you're a kid and you're growing up and you play football or you go boxing, you get a trophy. Well, I never done all that. I used to get like badges on the arm or a pat on the back or a bit of paper. So I got lots of bits of paper in my life. But I was a community police officer in South East London on Europe's most densely populated housing estate, the Aylesbury estate in Walworth, back in the mid to late 90s. 6, 7 years I've done there. And I was very lucky. I ended up as Community Constable of the Year for London, 6 years running, finalist or runner up. And one of the greatest projects I ever got involved in was an In Bloom competition. This housing estate was just big, long grey walkways. Each of the blocks of flats were named after villages in the Aylesbury Vale. So you got Wendover, Gayhurst, and things like that.
Right.
And each block of flats had as many houses as those villages had houses. So there's like 400 houses in one, or flats in one long 400-meter long block, 12 stories high. And it was great. It was just great. So me and a couple of the old girls off the Tennis Association decided to have an In Bloom competition. And we had a councillor who was really eco-active. He's now one of the lead people for Just Up Oil and Extinction Rebellion. Donica McCarthy, his name. Brilliant person. And back in the early 90s, we sat down, and he was the councillor, I was the policeman. And we used to arrange sponsorship to get all the plants and hanging baskets at cost price. And I used to get the gangs of Peckham to come and plant them up for the old girls.
Right.
And that worked really well, because it was better than me chasing them around the streets. Do you know what I mean? Get them involved in the local community. And we got them planted up local community orchards, little groups of 6 or 12 trees in between the blocks of flats. And we created a bit of pride and ownership with the kids.
Yeah.
And Donica, I remember when his father died, he told me that he'd got some inheritance and he was going to buy some solar for electricity. And I laughed at him. This was back in 1995, 1996. And I laughed. Anyway, he was up for it. And he was the very first person in the country who negotiated his own tariff where he sold energy back to the grid.
Wow.
Years before the feed-in tariff started. Years before. So I used environmentalism on the most densely populated housing estates in Europe to actually reduce crime, and I got a lot of awards for that sort of stuff. So I'm a communicator, and after 9/11, I was taken up to Central London, and I built an email message system, a communications package for times of a crisis. So anyone in the country, if there was a crisis that affected them, I was the communicator of that message. Rather than going through the news, it was coming direct from the police. So it was an email message system in the days before Facebook and Twitter and things. So I was just well embedded in communications and in community enhancement. And when I left the police in 2006, 2007, I'd had enough after 18 years. It was all going on up here. So I got out, and my mother-in-law had just retired. So she sold her house in London and we sold ours, and we moved to this 500-year-old house with just under an acre up in Norfolk. And I was commuting to start with, but then I've got this big old shed at the bottom of the garden, which is where we are now, the solar shed. It's a 250-year-old barn I've converted, and the house and the showroom I've converted all into a renewable energy workshop. So my clients can come and see how it all works, how it all fits, what the batteries look like. And you can't see it at the moment, but I've got a big screen on the wall here. It turns into a screen with a projector. And we show people all the monitoring so they can see how solar and battery and hot water and car charging systems work for other people in the locality. And if it works for them, it'll work for these people. So it was a natural progression to get into solar. But the kicking point, or the trigger point for me to get into solar was back in 2008. I'd been out of the police for about a year, started work on the house, and I was working for a double glazing company because I needed 23 windows and I couldn't afford them. So I worked for the double glazing company to get them at cost price, which I thought that was quite a sensible move. And I was just about to go into kitchens and bathrooms, and my kids started moaning about, I'm 8 years of age now, Dad. I don't need a bath with him. I've got twin boys, and they didn't want to bath with each other when they were getting dirty. And the oil boiler was coming on. In the summer months, the oil boiler was coming on. And then you go and watch the news and you see kids coming back from war in the Middle East. And then we were burning oil just so that we could fill our tanks up at £1.40 a litre or whatever. And I thought there's got to be another way. So I had a chat with a mate of mine, and I says, I want some of that solar thermal stuff, that hot water solar. Because you can't generate electricity in England with solar. You can only do hot water, can't you? So I got a job, and the deal was, if I sell £1 million worth of solar, he'll give me a cost price solar system. So that's what I did. So I sold £1 million worth of residential thermal solar over about a year, 18 months, and he gave me a cost price system, and my oil boiler stopped going on, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'd learned about people's houses. I'd learned how to sell. I learned a bit about solar, the politics of it, the reasons for it. And then I saw the results, which was me bathing in a free hot bath every day, which was glorious.
Amazing.
And being able to tell people, it's only going to cost you £6, my love, but you've got a lifetime of free hot baths. Do you know what I mean? So solar was really good. And then I was just about to leave and say, go to kitchens and bathrooms in 2009, 2010. And the government introduced the feed-in tariff scheme. So I thought, in for penny, in for pound. I had solar put on the I've got 2 solar systems here, one for the house, one for the workshop. I've got 2 electricity accounts. So I put a little solar system on the shed here and started inviting all my customers back to come and see it. So instead of me going and sitting in their houses, they'd come and sit in the shed. In fact, the very, very first person who ever sat in the shed here, his name was Nick. He's now the Lord Mayor of London. He lives in a big lordy old gaff up on the Norfolk coast. And about 10, 11 years ago, he came to me for a solar, and we've done a big ground-mounted 10-kilowatt system. And he was the very first person who sat in here as a customer, and he's now the Lord Mayor of London. I thought that's quite nice.
That is very nice, isn't it?
Well, I haven't got the by appointment outside or anything yet, so
No.
until that's the tick in the box for me.
So, what sort of size ranging are we talking? Because I'm hearing ground, I'm hearing thermal.
We'll do anything for houses mainly. I mean, when I first got involved in solar, I wanted to do everything. So everything from a little solar powered light and a solar powered torch, and I opened up a shop here. So we had people come in. There was campers and walkers and off-gridders and caravanners. But I'm not the electrician. I mean, it's easy enough to put an off-grid system together, a small scale for a shed, or if you want to run an electric fence and put a solar panel into a regulator, into a battery and plug it in. But then we started doing more elaborate stuff, people who were living off-grid. So I had to learn. And then obviously when the feed-in tariff started, it was all about, it was horrible to start with because you were selling solar under the old feed-in tariff regime.
Mm.
So it was almost like a race to the bottom. We all knew the reasons why we had to do solar, but no one was going to spend 22 grand on a 4-kilowatt solar system. And we talk about 4 kilowatts because that's the most you're allowed to put back down the grid on a single phase power supply. So that's why the industry talks about 4-kilowatt systems, or should I say that's the most you're allowed to put down before you get permission from the grid to put it down. So most of it was 4 kilowatts, and then I got a couple of commercials, 50, 60 kilowatt jobs, and everyone come on board for that, brought in other teams and smashed it out in a week, and that sort of led to other factories locally in Kings Lynn where I am. I managed to get in with all the factories. So I've done about a dozen factories over 2 or 3 years. That was quite nice, big systems. But Reputation was all about residential. We've got a 500-year-old house. It dates back to 1480, 2 of the rooms, and it's an old fisherman's cottage on the banks of the river. We actually own 80 meters tidal river, and I've got permissions in place, and I'm going to generate my electricity from the moon power. I'm going to get a water wheel in there and plug it into the house and generate my electricity for that. But yeah, it's all residential. So I started, first of all, it was leads. So we were either buying leads in or we had a telephone canvassing operation. It was very, very slowly. It was all high-end products, high-end service. None of this buy on the day stuff. We got away from all of that because solar sells itself. If you do it right, solar sells itself. And eventually, I was approached by a company about 2012, 2013 who said, Kev, there's our price list. There's our order forms. We love what you're doing. We want to be your installer up here. And I looked at the price list and I thought, hold on, I can sell more stuff for a cheaper price and earn a bit more money. I didn't realize how much markup there was with all the sales operation, the marketing manager, the sales manager, me, obviously, everyone had to be paid. And that was how we took solar to the people.
Yeah.
But then I thought, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to treat it like my old beat. So I just got a table with some leaflets and I went everywhere. Schools, libraries, WI meetings, green group meetings, colleges. I become a STEM ambassador, so I could go in on STEM days and talk to kids at school. And I thought I'm going to turn everybody I meet into a salesman or woman or person nowadays. Salespeople. Do apologise. So we've got to be so careful now.
We must be politically correct.
Well, I'm 56 now. I find it hard. That's why I like being the solace of my shed. I can say what I want and do what I want and can't offend anyone, can I?
No.
Mind you, I'm so woke I offend myself sometimes. But yes, so I used to get out there and I thought, you know what I'll do? I used to like a bit of networking. So I joined the BNI.
Yeah.
And BNI, Business Networking Initiative. If anyone's a startup or a small business and they want to get involved, or even if they just want the buzz of a sales meeting, there's nothing better than a good BNI meeting. And we had 22 businesses on there, and my job was to turn all of them into my sales staff. As it happens, I got an accountant, I got my IT man, I got my web man, got my roofer, got my builder.
The whole
They're all
business
there.
starts to build, doesn't it?
Of course it does. And we all work off each other. So the web man, the guy who does all the websites, he was going into people saying, oh, yeah, we'll do you a new website. And then we'll get an overhead drone in from Jim, who does overhead photography, and he can take pictures of your solar panels. And they go, we ain't got solar panels. Oh, I'll get Kevin in. Yeah. So we all worked together. It was really, really good. And you get a really good network and you socialize together. So we all built our businesses together. That was about 10, 11 years ago.
Are you still a member? Are you still a member of BNI?
No, I had to stop because it clashed with markets. I always wanted to be a market trader. So I got myself a van with an awning and kitting out the whole of the inside as a mobile showroom.
Right.
And then I'd go and sit in the market. But the market, you had to be there at 6:30 in the morning to set up. Now, no one's going to come down the market on a Tuesday in King's Lynn and talk to me at 6:30, but you had to be there at 6 o'clock or six to set up. So it clashed with BNI. And it was on the market square, it was outside on the town square where the pub was, where we'd done the BNI. So I'd all be set up and they'd come and have an after meeting with me and a coffee on the market. So it always looked like I was busy on Tuesday mornings. But the market was brilliant because even if you're not there to sell, no one's going to come up to you and give you 10, 15 grand, although they do occasionally. It doesn't happen often. It's like being a dog and marking your territory.
Yeah.
You know, King's Lynn is mine.
Yeah. How many systems do you think you've installed?
Oh, I've got a list. I've got everything at the touch of a button. Where are we? So we've just been doing some work on this. I've got a map on the other computer. I've got a map, a Google Earth map with every single installation dotted on there.
Wow.
If I scroll down, residential, I've got 1,032.
That's brilliant.
And all over. And then
what's the wide range of them? Where's the furthest?
The vast majority, about 95% of them are within, I'm going to say West Norfolk, so about 35 miles from where I live.
Right.
About 35 miles. But you do get, and also because I'm a teller, not a seller, I'm used by the industry. So last year, the Solar Energy UK put me forward for all the national newspapers. So when Mr. Putin was acting like the greatest poster boy the solar industry has ever known,
and energy.
I mean, during lockdown, it was a nice steady business. I was doing my 70 or 80 systems a year, which is what I wanted. Nice income, spend a lot of time with people. Lockdown come along, and all of a sudden it went boom. Greta Thunberg and David Attenborough, they'd done all the advertising for us on the build up to the COP at Glasgow. And then when that died down, Mr. Putin said, hold my beer, Greta, I'll show you how to build a solar industry. And everyone's prices went up. And the rest of the world, all the prices have gone down, but not in England. Because obviously we're still at war with Russia, aren't we, according to the Daily Mail?
Yeah.
So we've got to pay for that through our bills. Good old British bulldog spirit. What? Our energy market is screwed completely when you look at what else is going on. But and a lot of people are at home using more energy during the day, working from home, servers going all day, kettles on all day. And that drove demand. So yeah, mainly we're in 35, 40 miles, but then I got used last year. I was in the Independent, the Telegraph, the Times, the Guardian, the Observer, done all these big double page features with my customers and me doing the narrative about why people should go for solar and putting the costs on there, that it just drove even more demand towards me. So years and years ago, a mate of mine, he gave me a web domain, solarpower.co.uk, which is quite a nice one to have. So what I've done, I've built a separate website. And what it is, it's a mates list. It's people who want me to do the work, and I get them from all, people do their research. They don't want the 3 quotes. They want someone they can trust and have been around for years. So they land on my doorstep, but they're in Aberdeen. I ain't driving all the way up to Aberdeen for a feasibility survey. And I'm not sending Liam in his Tesla up to Aberdeen when he works in Norfolk, Essex and Suffolk. So what I've done, I've built, I don't know if you've seen it. If you're looking for a solar power company in the UK, go to solarpower.co.uk. And I've covered most counties with an installer that's been around for 10 or 12 years. And there's links to all of these companies. There's no data collection. It just sends the public direct to one central resource. And at the moment, I think there's 52 different companies on there in total. And we're covering all of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland. So it doesn't matter where you live, you shouldn't be no more than about 30 or 40 miles away from one of my friendly installers. And there's no commissions in place. It's just a straightforward referral system between installers all over the country. And we call ourselves the Solar Nation because we're going to create a solar nation.
And is that purely residential or a bit of both?
To start, it's got a few commercial installers on there because they're good mates. They've been around for a long time and they will help out where they can. But some of them aren't MCS because they're big scale commercial. Yeah. So over 250 kilowatt, we don't need it, MCS. So I'm trying to build almost two databases at the same time, one for commercial and one for residential. I want people to be able to go to their local installers so we're not all fighting for the same work. And there's a lot of,
and it's going to reduce the carbon footprint to get that work done.
It's got to. It's got to. If we can all do no more than 60 miles for a job, rather than 600 miles. If you've got four vehicles doing journeys, 100-mile journeys back and forwards, that's a lot of mileage.
Common sense, isn't it? Can I pick up on one point? Just want to take you back a little bit. So you talked about the feed-in tariff. Now that must have really, that's the driver, wasn't it? What has happened since the feed-in tariff disappeared?
Well, I was never a fan of feed-in tariffs. Whilst it helped the business and it helped the industry grow, I knew I was selling solar for 2.5 years before feed-in tariffs were introduced.
Right. All
it done was it doubled the average order value.
Right.
So the way that we were working, that's all it did. With the feed-in tariff, I because I come from the socialist background that I do, I'm not a fan of people on the older estates where I used to work. They can't afford to put beans on their toast, but they were spending 9% of their electricity bill, so I could give it away to a rich person who could afford solar. It was quite sickening, really.
Right.
If you've got no moral compass, then feed-in tariffs are the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
And we also did need an incentive to kickstart an industry. We needed it. So, double-edged sword. Martin Lewis was a bane of my life, and he had to apologize a couple of times on Twitter because of the things he was saying. Get in now before it's too late. The cuts are going to come in. And it was like, oh, thanks, Martin. That means I haven't got an industry next week, according to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Solar has always been worth it since the day we discovered photovoltaics.
Yeah.
Back in the 1860s, when some farmer in Arizona was trying to generate electricity when his wind turbine thing weren't going to pump water, and he discovered the photosynthesis or the photovoltaic effect between selenium and light. And it was only in the 50s when NASA come along and they wanted to send space objects up into space that we started using silicon. Yeah, so there's always been this evolution, but it was always expensive. So feed-in tariffs around the world needed. I mean, we were the 27th member state at the time to introduce a feed-in tariff scheme. Yeah, so all the other member states of Europe already had them, and we joined on the 1st of April 2010, and it did boom. We went from about 500 people fully employed in solar to 22,000.
Yeah.
And then as the cuts come in, the message was all about the feed-in tariffs, and that's what was sickening, because it was all about the money, not about the carbon, not about 40 years worth of energy in advance at today's price and what you're going to save, and free hot baths and all those things. You can, driving around in a car that doesn't cost you bugger all of those things from solar, but it was all about feed-in tariffs. So I was quite a vocal to get rid of them earlier than what they did. But we met a lot of hostility within the industry because most of the industry started after the feed-in tariffs, and that's all they knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, rode the solar coaster out. And then all of a sudden, for me, and it might have been just a mindset, because in sales, the only reason I sell is because of me, and the only reason I don't sell is because of me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we've never looked back since 2019. It's been better than ever. No longer do we go out to people. There's no market in respect of that. I've never made a phone call in my life, a blind phone call. Never put a leaflet through someone's door. I have about £4 a month telephone bill. Literally, there's no outbound calls here. It's all inward bound because of the schools, the talks, the markets, the word of mouth, the reputation. So for me, the last 4 years have been boom time. Last year, we sold about £2 million worth of solar from a shed at the bottom of the garden. And before that, the best year I'd ever had was about 800,000. I'd got up to about 800,000, 2019, 2020. 2021 was a bit more. And then the last 2 years, it's just absolutely skyrocketed.
Right.
It's been ridiculous.
So we're talking about the progress of the sales side. What about the progress of the technology? Have we seen enhancements on that?
Good God, yeah, it's blown us away. I mean, first of all, on size of panels, I mean, the first panels we were putting up were 180 watts. So we needed to put about 24 panels up or something, or 22 panels, whatever it was, to get 4 kilowatts. And today we can do 4 kilowatts or 4.3 kilowatts with 10 panels. I mean, there are some panels that are 500 watts, but Rob, the roofer, he's only about 5'11", and his arms aren't long enough to get the panels up onto the roof. So we're sticking to the 430 watt panels. They're just big enough for our roofer to get up a ladder with them. But yeah, if you can get 10 panels, which are round about the same sort of, almost 2 meters by 1 meter, for the same as what we used to do. So you get a lot more energy in a small area. I'm a massive fan of micro inverters and optimization. Where each panel has its own inverter. That just makes so much sense for me. But it is very, very expensive compared to a lot of stuff out there. The hybrid inverters have really changed the game, because now we've got one inverter for solar and battery.
Right.
So it drives the efficiencies, because you're storing the energy on the DC side, whereas beforehand, like my system, you've got a solar system and a battery. You have to convert it from DC to AC, goes out to the grid, then convert it back to DC to store it, and then when you want to use it, convert it back to AC again. Right. Not anymore. It all goes in one battery, DC to DC, and then converted when you need it.
Right.
With hybrid batteries, we're now up to 20 kilowatts of storage on a single phase battery system, and that's only in the last few months we got to that stage. So that's really, really clever. The smart management, so being able to charge up your hot water, charge a car, charge your battery at cheap rates overnight from the grid. All of those things are where the software companies are now getting involved with the battery manufacturers, but now taking it a step further, the energy companies, and Octopus in particular, are now building tariffs around the technology.
Yeah.
So you can do smart trading. They've just introduced one last week where they'll pay you with the same amount of money for exporting as what you do when you buy it.
Yeah.
Which Tesla done a deal like that a few years back. I've got this one customer who's got 87 kilowatts of solar, right? Residential, massive system. It is all in the ground. And he's got 6 Tesla power walls. And I said to him, he says, I've got a £12,000 a year electricity bill. I says, why is that? He says, we're here at least one weekend a month. Big country house, right? Massive. Swimming pools and everything. Anyway, he got this deal with Tesla. Provided he had enough Tesla power walls, he could buy and sell at the same rate. So he uses 87,000 kilowatt hours of electricity a year. He's got an 87 kilowatt solar system, so it'll generate that amount. What he doesn't use, or what is excess to the battery and usage, goes down the grid, and he buys it back at exactly the same price. He's got 87,000 kilowatts, carbon neutral, grid neutral.
Wow.
No bills from the grid.
Are we seeing a lot of this now, where people are able to go off grid?
You've got to differentiate off grid, and the reason being is off grid means you don't have a electrical connection.
Yeah.
Do not try and live a normal life in the United Kingdom off grid in the UK. Yeah. You're never going to.
We're doing it virtually, basically, aren't we?
That's yeah.
Now, you've still got the connection into the grid, but you're able to go off grid virtually regarding the finance side of it.
I can show you. I know it wouldn't affect the people listening, but the people who are looking on YouTube, if you allow me to share a screen,
yep,
I'll pop some bits up and show you. I've got some screens in front of me. I'll give you a very quick. Here we go. Right, I don't want that one. What we want is this one. Does that come up?
Yep.
Lovely. Right, what we're looking at. Let me just get the camera as well so I can see where we're talking. There we go. Right. I'm getting old. I've got one of these 3 screen displays, and I don't know which way I'm supposed to be looking. I need an 8-year-old to come and tell me. Right. Let me just clear the parameters on that.
And for the benefit of the audience, we're now going into YouTube mode, and I'm not sure how this is going to be presented because we've not done this before. So thank you, Kevin, for stretching our technology.
What we're looking at is the monitoring of my own solar and battery system at home. Now, the monitoring system is a generic platform called SolarMan Smart, and we encourage as many people to use it as possible. You can't control your battery management from this. You have to walk up to your inverter and press buttons. But for monitoring, to me, there's nothing better. So what we can see is overnight, there's me charging my car. Okay.
Right.
So 7.5 kilowatts charging the car and running the house. Now, a lot of that energy actually comes from the battery. So I can show you here, how much did I purchase? So we purchased round about 4.5 kilowatts along there. The rest of it was from the grid. And then when the battery was exhausted, it all come from the grid. Yeah. So that purple is what we purchased.
Right.
Okay. But what I'm going to do, you can see today's a really gloomy day, so there's not much blue on there. Blue is solar generation and red is usage. I've got to give the missus a pat on the back because she's not using much energy today either. I like that. But what I'm going to do is scroll down and we're going to look at the whole of July, and I'm going to show you 3 parameters. So this is a 4 kilowatt solar system in the Midlands. So I'm in East Anglia, but the northern edge at King's Lynn.
Yeah.
So a south facing system, 4 kilowatts. So the best of days will generate 25 kilowatts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're paying 30 pence a kilowatt hour, there's £7.50 worth of electricity we've generated there a day.
Right.
Yeah. Now our usage, get rid of production. That's how much we consume in the house. Now we're quite sporadic because we've been driving an electric car for 8 years. I've just sold it. I bought a new one, but I put a smart charger in, and I'm trying to get used to the patterns and the programming. It's new to me. I've been selling them for 8 years, and now I've only just bought one. So what you're going to see next will blow you away. This is how much energy we purchased because of the solar and the batteries. That is what you can see we've consumed, and what you can see there is what we've purchased. All of those purple lines are what we buy.
Wow.
Well, you can see when I got the new car charger put in on the 21st.
Yeah.
Because I played with it for 2 days there, and I played with it for 2 days because the last 2 days I've been playing with it.
Yeah, yeah. Can see that.
And all of that energy that we bought in was bought in at 7.5 pence a kilowatt hour overnight.
Yeah.
So if we look for the month, we can see your production in the winter is quite high. So your consumption is quite high, but because your production is quite low, you have to buy quite a bit.
Yeah.
But look what happens when you get through to March. All of a sudden, March, half of our energy comes from the solar.
Yeah.
And then in April, we used 460 kilowatts, but we only purchased 90. The same again in May. And then in June, we only purchased 35 kilowatts for the whole of the month. And so far this month, 56. And that's only because I charged the car up a couple of times. It's cost me about 14 quid a month to live and all of the motoring, new BMW. And it's cost us 14 quid a month to run, to run our house, run our life, run our business, the car, everything. 14 quid a month.
And that's significant saving, isn't it? Significant.
Oh yeah, I should be on about £200 a month the amount of energy we use, and we're not shy.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a solar hot water system. I've got 4 kilowatts on the house with a big battery, 14 kilowatt, and then I've got my little system here on the shed which powers this building.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got projector. We've got 3 fridges and freezers. We've got lights. There's a full office. There's screens and all the rest of it. And it cost me absolutely jack during the day to run this. So we never use the words off grid. I mean, I can use 25, 26 kilowatts in a day and maybe take 200 or 300 watts.
Yeah.
You've got to be grid connected for this equipment to work.
Yeah.
It's grid tied equipment. So you can run free or independent of grid electricity. But also what I discovered as well, you like this. So I'd had my batteries for about 5 years, and I was going to bed in the summer months with 50, 60% still in the battery. And I was waking up and I'd taken maybe 1 or 2 kilowatts from the grid. And I'm going, why is that when I've got energy in the battery? And I worked it out. I was a really low energy user. When you're using 80 watts or less, which is my background load, the inverter wasn't triggering and switching on. There's a threshold where it triggers to open up. So ironically, I've now got to use more energy overnight that I don't want to use, just purely to make sure that it comes from the battery. So we're putting 4 or 5 fans on, we're putting things on overnight we wouldn't normally do, just to use energy to make sure it comes from the battery rather than the grid.
Right. So there's a lot of, at the moment, you're having to think a lot rather than it being too smart, but the technology is going in a direction to be more smarter, do you think?
Yeah, I've got a lot of customers that use something called Home Assistant. Are you aware of it?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Don't go down that rabbit hole. Not at your age, mate. Not at my age. It's for younger people than us, trust me. It's a very, very smart platform. It's very time intensive to set it up in the first instance, but it's the Internet of Things. Basically, Home Assistant is a platform on Google, and you can register all of your internet connected devices.
Right.
I've got people on a weekly basis sending me emails saying, "Oh, Kevin, my smart speaker used 32 watts last week, and all of it and my fridge uses this. And when the compressor comes on for the fridge, it goes up to 180 watts, then down to 35 watts." But then if you can see what's going on, I mean, on the monitoring, it's good. So let me come out of there again. On the monitoring, it's quite good.
Yeah.
So you can see what's going on. But on the smart, on the Home Assistant, you're now looking at the energy consumption of every single appliance in your house. And if you're into spreadsheets, boy, are you going to love this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the technology, the software development from the likes of Give Energy, the likes of the My Energy, these are software development companies and technology companies. They're not battery companies, they're not solar companies, but integrating with our core products, and they're putting their management systems in. It is a bit of a game changer, especially on the smaller systems that we're putting in people's houses. It's nice to be able to see things on one app.
Yeah.
But if someone's got a really, really big high energy demand on a single phase power supply, those single phase inverters only go up to a certain size. So that's where we go over to things like N-phase micro inverters, because you can just keep going. Doesn't matter how big you go on those, you don't have to worry. Yeah, we do a lot of them.
So where's this all going? Because for me, you just said it, don't go there regarding certain software packages for the likes of you and I. There's a lot of people out there that aren't techie and want to do that side of it. How do we... There's going to be an issue going here.
Right, all of the products, in the first instance, I say to people, but this is the experience of a salesman, is what you're looking for: full integration or set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And I let them tell me. I don't explain what they are. They say, set it and forget it. And I say, okay, let me just throw this one at you, though. If there was a power cut, would you like a little bit of energy for maybe a couple of plugs or some circuit? They go, no, it doesn't affect us. Lovely. Don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because if I start talking about it, it blows their mind what you can do. I'd rather they approach me and said what they want, and I'll build a system to them. Some people say, well, yes, I do have a weather station now I've retired, and I do like a nice Excel spreadsheet, Mr. Holland. Oh, God, I'm going to hear from this bloke every Friday, aren't I? which is great. I want feedback, but I want it every 50. I want it every 52nd Friday, not every Friday. Once a year is good.
Once a year is good. Yeah.
Yeah. But people keep their own monitoring. But all of these monitoring systems, they allow you to keep data. So it shows you all of the things I'm showing you. Plus, you can really delve into it. You can look at your battery parameters. You can look at the voltage, the temperatures. You can look at how much each individual cell has produced and all that sort of stuff. So if people want high-level monitoring and lots of technology where they use an app to change the settings on the battery, we can do that. Yeah. But most people who buy solar, people have already got their mortgage. They've already paid for the mortgage. They're starting to accumulate wealth rather than paying things off.
Yeah.
They're at a time of their life where they really can't be asked with. They just want to know that their bills are going to be going down.
Yeah.
They don't want all the bells and whistles.
And they need certainty, don't they?
That's where I think I've pitched our company: longevity, reputation, ethics, integrity, and because we open up our house as a showroom to these people.
Yeah.
We've had the surveyors, the surveying team who look after the house up at Sandringham sitting here. And then COVID come along, then the Queen died, so we haven't done any work up there yet. But that was all, so we get people come here. So you've got to put products out there. I'm not interested in the race to the bottom and, this other bloke said he'll do it for 10 grand. Fine, go and use him. This is what I suggest you do, because I know these products will work. And when you open your house up to people, they all know where you live. So you've got to make sure. But the younger breed of people, so people in their late 30s and 40s, there are some very affluent people who are of a younger age. And if it sounds patronizing, I apologize.
No, it
But
doesn't.
I don't come from money.
You
I come from
identify.
I come from a 20 for the month. You get paid on the 20 for the month. There's your money. Take a loan out if you need more. That's, that's how I was brought up. But the younger people are a lot smarter with the technology. People in their 30s and 40s, I find people who are 15 years younger than me, they're a lot smarter in the technology. Having greater technology and greater monitoring will help us in the industry understand people's behavior and usage patterns more. Because it's all about data, isn't it? It's all about data. I mean, data is now the #1 traded commodity, more so than oil, has been for 2 or 3 years now. So it's a data-led world. So the more data we get access to, the better the systems will be. I mean, we've always been saying for years, what we need is a 6 kilowatt solar system with a 15 kilowatt battery. That is where the Shangri-La for 99% of residential houses are.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're putting in nowadays, that sort of size system.
So, Kevin, where do you think the future is of all this? Are we just going to keep going and going and going?
Future? We're living the lithium lifestyle. I'm turning daylight into money and making every day a Sunday. What more do you want?
Are we going to hit net zero?
We've got no choice, really. Not under this lot. Bloody well sack this lot. Next election, just get rid of them, yeah? We'll steer karma with Keir Starmer. I think that's the expression, isn't it?
Right.
So he's got to sit on the fence at the moment, because otherwise he'll be pillaged for the next 18 months in the press. So they've got to keep their policies under close wraps. They've got to just come out like a competent bunch of people at the moment. That's all it needs in this country. But the election is theirs to lose. Do you know what I mean? It's in the bag at the moment. I was loved up with New Labour. I'm not hard left. I'm left of centre. But I think we need in this country to take what Europeans and some African nations, they don't look at short-term 5-year plans that suit a political agenda. Let's make sure we get the votes for next election. It's about the betterment of the people they serve. And the Labour Party do serve the country. They're not into self-service. It's not in their nature. You're always going to get a bit of corruption and a bit of, I can make an extra £100,000 here. But it's not par for the course of in Labour. And I genuinely think they will hit the ground running with the Green Investment Bank, with the onshore and offshore wind. They will reverse any negatives that are in there. I think they're going to push for solar on houses a little bit quicker than what it's coming at the moment. I think we're going to be following up the Scottish rules soon, aren't we? It's going to go up to 2.5 kilowatts on a new build, I think. But you've got to remember, some houses have been designed where you've got dormers and chimneys and Veluxes all over because they put rooms in lofts. There's no room for solar. And if those plans were started 10 years ago, you can't all of a sudden add a whole lump of money onto the builders. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to go through this transition so that renewables become the norm, and we're getting there. You can't connect to the gas grid anymore. You can't connect to oil boilers. There's got to be air source or electric heating. So we are getting there. We've got to do the fabric first. Older housing stock, Edwardian and Victorian housing stock was a bloody nightmare to insulate. It cost me a fortune last year to do my internal wall insulation. But there again, I'm now struggling to get the house down below 19 degrees in the middle of winter, which is lovely, because internal solid wall insulation really does work. But I think politically will be the driver, or we need the mainstream media, which is favourable to the right side of politics, and I say right as in right leaning, not right as in correct. And they're all in bed with the fuel lobby. So, I mean, we had a big report from Auto Exchange or Exchange in Mart a few weeks back about EVs, but all it was doing was perpetuating myths.
Yeah.
Batteries are going to run out after 5 years. They blow up if you charge them over 80%. I wrote letters to all the newspapers saying, well, my battery that I've just sold an electric car. It had 109 miles when I started with it. It had 100 miles when I finished with it. It's a 10-year-old car. I've only ever charged it up with a granny charger, a 3-pin plug, never had a smart charge in its life or a public charge. And I live 7 miles away from the nearest shops. How on earth did I survive all those years?
Yeah.
But my voice is small. I'm just one person. And the Solar Nation, we're just one group of 50 or 60 installers against the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Telegraph, the Spectator, all of those things, which are well-read period. And then they form the news as well, didn't they?
Yeah. They influence it all,
So,
sadly.
so that's the battle. The battle isn't with the technology. The battle isn't with the people. It's a salesman's battle. We are professional mind changers in sales.
Yeah.
You know, people have got a preconceived perception or an idea about renewables. It's like, you know, oh, there's not enough lithium, and where we going to get all the electricity from? All of the rubbish. We can debunk that left, right, and centre all day. And I'm sure you have. But we've got to do is constantly bang that drum and remind the public that there is another way. We do not have to send children to war in the Middle East or out in the Balkans, wherever we're going to get our oil and gas from, just so you can fill up at 140 pence a litre. We don't need to do that anymore because it's falling out of the bloody sky. We just need to collect it and use it.
Mindset. So, Kevin,
it is a mindset.
I'm going to slow you down, stop you there. Just take one step back.
I do get excited.
Yeah, you do. I've always said this wasn't a political show as such, but don't worry. Let's take a step back. Now, you've given lots of insights here. This is for the education of the future energy experts around the world. What can you give back as a takeaway to our industry today?
In what sense? Go on, let's explore that.
So we have energy experts around the world listening to this. We, as experts, I'm an energy manager. I like to give back knowledge. So I write things regarding toolbox tips.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So I want to help someone, someone who's going to listen to this today.
Yep. I want those people who have either got the same knowledge and experience as me, or those who are learning, to take that knowledge and think like a teacher. If you want a hobby that fulfills you, go and stand in front of a group of school kids at 11, 12, 13 years of age, or younger. Get involved in the green group or the study groups. At school, they might have an eco week or a climate week.
Yeah,
where they're all encouraged to take bottles in full of plastic, make eco bricks, or they make an igloo out of milk bottles and things.
And eco warriors and such.
Yeah, that's it. Get in there and get in there and give them pats on back and encourage them and get the kids, because I've got customers today who I was talking to their grandchildren and their children 15 years ago.
Yeah,
and it's them who have pushed them to come and see the Solar Man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we got to turn everyone we meet into a solar. I mean, I ask people all the time, how you get on with your solar? And they go, oh, I haven't got solar. I go, yet. Do you know? So it's that constant leaving triggers with people about, the reasons why we need to do this are there being born for us. We can see it all on the news and the newspapers. We can feel it in the weather. We know the reasons we've got to do this.
Yeah.
I like to remind people about the dirty politics. But the biggest thing for me is education. If we've all, a lot of us have got a lot of knowledge, and we should share that knowledge, not just trade off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about leaving legacies, isn't it? I mean, as an individual, what sort of legacy do you want to leave as an individual?
Yeah.
And we can all leave a positive impact, can't we? So education, I think blogs are really important. YouTube videos, explainers. A lot of the companies that I work with on the Solar Nation, great on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, explainer videos. Now, naturally, globally, we've all got different grid restrictions and different constraints and things like that. But I've got a mate in South Africa, Sonny Boy Morgan, who's doing the same as me. We've been around 15 years together. We met on LinkedIn or Twitter 15 years ago, and we've both seen our companies grow, me here and him in South Africa. He does exactly the same as me, but he also goes on Fridays for Future, the climate marches at the schools, and he educates with climate leaders like that. So there are ways of creating this snowball effect and speeding it up. We need to speed up the transition, but at the end of the day, it costs money. Yeah, switching a light off might save you a few quid, but when you put it back on, you still need electricity.
Yeah. Kevin, amazing passion. Really have enjoyed chatting to you, and it's been, it's one of these interviews I do where I've had to sit back, because if I didn't, I get pushed back. But no, it's really,
I love talking about the stuff I like. You're more than welcome. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and however many people are looking at this, hi, and have a look at what we do, the Solar Shed. But if I can just encourage people just to keep doing what you're doing, that's what it's about.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you for your time today. It's been amazing. Love your passion that's coming across, and I'm sure that passion will be shared with our listeners and the other energy experts out there. We'd like to say thank you, and please, you and your family, stay safe in these times.
We will indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything.